And here's your host, Goody.
Welcome to the Gabbin with Goody podcast. I'm your host, Goody. Today, two of my very good friends, Matt and Zach, here to discuss the inner workings of the fire department as well as the social network that is the fire department and the job in general. Again, Matt, thank you for opening up your home for the second time here on the podcast.
Thanks for coming.
And Zach, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
So like I said, all of us have kind of had some different paths to the fire department. Firefighting was kind of not really a big thing for me until later on in my high school career. I know me and Matt touched on this a little bit. My grandfather was a firefighter on our fire department, and that kind of gave me I wasn't there as much as say if my dad was on the fire department, but I did make my rounds through the fire department when I was younger. In high school, I was able to kind of go in there, do a shadowing thing for a day, and and then I decided that that's kind of what I wanted. It was again, like all our journeys, it was kind of like a longer journey, but I did eventually get there, and here we are now.
Your dad was a call guy?
My grandfather was a full-time firefighter.
No, I knew. I thought you said. I'm sorry.
No, my dad worked for the town, but he worked for the DPW.
I was gonna say, oh man, I didn't know that. Didn't know that about you. I'm learning so much already. Look at that.
I mean, that's a false fact, but
fake news.
So, but yeah, family is always a big one. People kind of fall into the fire department or public service because of family members. So that is kind of a common thing. Matt, you want to kind of elaborate a little bit on?
I
can't help but feel like he directed that question at me a little
he
bit.
did.
I apologize.
He's looking at you, but really talking to me coming for you.
Yeah, definitely lead the charge on that one.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be
Let me
next.
see what I can.
You're next on this.
Let me see what I can pull out of my hat here. So I think like a lot of kids my age at the time, nobody was really sure on what they really wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to be in aviation. I knew that I wanted to fly planes. But then it quickly became apparent that I wasn't going to be able to fly the A-10 Warthog because I wear glasses.
It's not fair.
Yeah, it was not fair. It was not fair. I wanted to be I wanted to do all that stuff. Became evident that obviously that plan was not going to come to fruition. There was a day that I just happened to be at my grandparents' house and happened to witness a medical emergency that my grandmother had. The ambulance came, and the two folks that were on the ambulance, I don't know what led me to just being so fascinated and so interested in what they were doing. The way that they spoke to my grandmother, just watching them, how they interacted with not just her, with the family and their demeanor and their professionalism. I pretty much, when they put her in the ambulance, I was like, I want to be that guy. That guy is cool. And coming from a law enforcement family, obviously my dad was in the law enforcement side, so that's been a running joke as well of being like, oh, he went fire, he chose right, and depending on which mood you catch him in. Sometimes he's very pro law enforcement.
Trade your gun for a pillow.
Yeah. All the jokes. All
Sure.
the jokes. And then it was went away to college, like we spoke about last time. Went to EMT school. Had to wait until I turned 18 to take the EMT test. Finally took the EMT test. Started working, and just continuously went up the old chain, the old ladder until where I got today.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Zach, talk a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, obviously family being a big part of it. A couple of generations in public service back in the day. I don't want to misspeak, but relative with Springfield Fire in Indian Orchard, obviously my father being on the department kind of shifted me towards that. Very similar experience to what Matt was talking about. Episode happened with my grandmother, and I was kind of taking care of her at the time. She ended up having a stroke, which she recovered from a little bit. But really like one of the icing on the cakes was actually get guys on the Ludlow Fire Department coming, guys that we work with. Actually, had throw his name out there. He's obviously not listening right now, but Sean actually. Sean was one of the medics who came, and just the way that he treated my grandmother was unbelievable. He just kind of broke it right down. He knew it was a serious thing. He'd obviously been a medic forever. I think he was probably.
I think he was the first EMS provider in Massachusetts.
Yeah, he was. I think he.
George Washington took him on the boat. Like, yeah, just be the medic on the boat. Just
Yeah, He's been doing it for a long time.
You look great, though. You look great.
But you weren't gonna razz him, and just the fact that like me being there, my father obviously it was my father's mother there, but he was calm, cool, and collected. Obviously knew what he was doing, but just like the way that he handled that situation with my grandmother, it was kind of like, wow, that's like this is legit. This is almost like a family that you kind of get into, and aside from it being like a family that I thought I was gonna be in or wanted to be in, it just happened. And then, it was out for the races, like Matt said. You get into EMT school, you meet the people and it's like you got to springboard into being a medic because, putting on Band-Aids and
that's
putting
all.
people on the breathers
It's a
isn't really
job
going to
now.
cut it,
Yeah.
right? So, we got to keep going. And, but no, it was good. And
Is that kind of interesting that you got into it more and I got into it more based off of EMS? That's a weird thing. You don't see that a lot. It's
It
more
is.
of like firefighter. Oh, I got to be a paramedic.
Well, that's
No, it was like
well,
the complete opposite.
to
For
your
us.
point though, trying to what actually gets you into the job,
Yeah.
right? Like everybody watched Backdraft, right?
Couple times.
Yeah, just I don't know
Never seen it.
every.
I don't know
line,
every- no,
just,
no.
Where the pauses are.
No.
But it's one of those things where it's like helping people kind of get you into the thing, and then you're going from there. And I'm sure it was the same with you. Actually, I think it was pretty much the same for you. It's like you get into like a little bit of the EMT thing. And, it's cool. We're running around Springfield, and it's like, whoa, I just want to put everybody on oxygen and,
Yep.
let's check a sugar real quick. Because we were
Please
cool.
have a cut somewhere so I can put a Band-Aid on.
Right, like we were cool enough to steal the glucometer from the medic truck.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was kicking around.
Yeah.
But, it was like, nah, you got to get a little bit more into it. But I think that probably speaks to, why we're all here. You got to go that one step further. You got to know what's one step further, and I think that's kind of what brought us here. I think we're all pretty much around the same age. You guys a couple years on me, but still the same thing. You got to keep chasing that dream.
Same age,
Same age but different.
The same,
Same, but
but different.
vastly
So,
different.
to touch on a few things. First one being, I also had that realization that, at first I wanted to be a firefighter and that was the big thing. I wanted to fight fires and do all that jazz, and it turned into knowing that I needed to get into the EMS side, and I don't hate it, and I'm not I've kind of grown accustomed to it now, and it's my. That's what we do. That's
That is.
90, whatever number you want to put on that, 90% of our job is, showing up to somebody's house and helping them out. And I think that's, now it's more of a driving force because you get that sense of, I'm actually doing something. Whereas, sometimes you get a big fire, if you stop a fire, you're all happy. But, if that person's house burns down, what did we do? We couldn't get there fast enough or whatever, whatever the reason was. And you kind of don't get that feeling. You get that feeling of, I wish I could have did more. Mm-hmm. Not to say that you don't get that feeling in EMS. You get that patient that just for some reason doesn't, isn't working out and it's their time. And that's kind of something that we also have to deal with quite frequently. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, with the family thing, again, with my family being very involved in the town, not necessarily on the fire department. Obviously, my grandfather was, but my sister, my mother, my dad, everybody working for the town. I kind of had that, sense of pride that I wanted to give back to the town that had given me, so much at the time, and I think that was a lot of the driving force for me. And we did talk about this. I don't know if we talked about it when me and you talked about it, but there was a time where people were talking about morale at the fire department and whether or not being from town is an important part of having that pride in the station. I know you guys will be able to elaborate that. Zach being from town like me, Matt being from out of town, we'll get both sides of that perspective. But I think it was with Bill. I talked with Bill, and we kind of got to that point where the department can't always get somebody from town. And we don't want to be turning people away because they're from, West Springfield or wherever. And I think we talked a little bit about how it's becoming harder and harder because that selection is becoming smaller and smaller. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. It's hard. Obviously, it's hard for me because I'm from the town, and like it's easy for me to get that sense of pride. And I'm just curious: is there like something that we talked about that we couldn't really answer? Bill, I mean, Bill's not from town, but we kind of touched on it a little bit. But we wanted to know, what do you think that we could do to kind of instill that sense of pride in your department, even if you're not from the town? Like, how do we get somebody to invest in the town, I guess, is the question there. Like,
that's a great question, and I actually never really even thought about it, I guess, until you brought it up. I don't know if I would be any different with the passion of the job and the dedication that I have for the job and of the town. I don't know if that would change. Obviously, I did not grow up in the town that we work in, so I don't feel like that has changed at all. I feel like if I was to work in the department where I grew up, I would have the very same work ethic. I would take probably a lot more chances than I normally do, and that's just how I normally do things. I don't think anything that I do day to day would be vastly different. Yeah, I truly enjoy working here in this town, and I think I would have just as equally a good time if I worked in the town that I grew up in. So I see how you're saying how you want to try to get the people who grew up in town the opportunity to serve in the town. That I don't feel, for me anyway, that would be any different than how I am today if I was to take a job at where I worked or where I grew up.
Yeah, I mean, kind of to echo what Matt said, there's two different conversations which you're talking about a little bit. Like, do we have to light the fire, right? If we want to keep the job alive, do we have to light the fire in the next generation? Yes. Is that going to be possible to do it in the community that you live and work in all the time? Absolutely not. You're going to get those people who come from outside, like Matt, and who does a great job in this town, right? And he loves it here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyway, but the point is like, you're going to get that. But aside from that, this is a bigger picture sometimes when it comes to recruitment. But when I say the word recruitment, I don't want to make it sound like there's a sign-up sheet, be all you can be. It's recruitment it's just knowing whether or not, like, the job is for you. This job is, they'll tell it to you, and I don't know shit about it. But the point is it's 90% this, 90% or 10%, whatever, right? This job is 100% about people. Okay, it's 100% about people in almost every aspect of it. Like, the three of us are sitting here having an open dialogue about it. This is a majority of the job.
yeah.
You can teach somebody to start IVs. You know what I mean? You can pull the junk line off the truck and walk that way with it. You can throw the ladder where it needs to be thrown. Those are skills. Those are learned behaviors. 100% of this job is people. And I'll do you one better on that. It's the people you work for, the people who pay your salary, the people you work with, and then every other person you meet. And that seems to be a part of the job that's when you know that you're invested in the job. So the people that you work for, the people in the community that we see, the people that we serve, right? Their taxes are paying our salary, but like we're there, we're helping. And they honestly, their worst day is our regular day. But we make something out of that for them. Hopefully it's better.
Yeah.
The people that you work with on a group, it's your family. You spend 24 hours working with some of these people, right? I mean, everybody here in this table can say something about like if you don't get into an argument with every person that you work with over the course of this job, you're doing something wrong, right? But it's everything else too. There's that whole third category of all those other people that you relate to and how you relate the job to them. How do they feel about what you do? How do you express what you do? Is it the job, right? Because it can be a job, it can be a 9 to 5, or it's a calling. It's a career, but it's the job, right? And like, how many times have both of you guys heard that? It's the job. That's what it is. And not to steal the other 5 minutes of this here, but like where I see a lot of that is with the union. And the PFFM and certainly international and some of the changes we've seen over the last couple of years and just exposing some of the bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And finally you feel like someone's speaking for you or your money goes somewhere, it means something, but like it's the job.
Yeah.
And it's, like you had mentioned, it's not, Matt wasn't from town, but he's here now and he's locked in, he's vested, it's all good. Like I got a buddy in Cambridge, I text him sometimes actually, him, Matt Lapata.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like some of the stuff. Hey, it's just what's going on. Like it's the same, right? Like they get a lot more stuff going on sometimes than us, but it's relative. It's the same job. It's the job. The kitchen table is the kitchen table. The calls are the calls.
Yeah.
The contract's the contract. It's the job. So I love that you bring up, right? Because it's a good point, and Matt's a great example of that. Like, hey, you didn't grow up in town, where you fit and everything else. Doesn't matter. Does it make it easier? Does it make it harder sometimes? I'm sure it does. And we're probably two of the better examples of that. Not the best, but two of the better examples of that. Hey, you grew up in Ludlow. You work in Ludlow. How does that work? Hey, you didn't grow up in Ludlow.
You knew nobody coming in
Right.
here.
You
How
know
does that work?
anybody. How does that work?
Yeah.
But like, it's the point. It's like what we're saying, and what you can comment on too, Andy. It's just the job.
Yeah.
People are the job. You take any one of the three of us, put us on a plane, send us to wherever on vacation. There's a problem. You're gonna have three dudes in line ready to solve it. It's just what it is. It's the job.
It's for the most part pretty much the same, whether you're in East Coast or West Coast. It might take a second to acclimate yourself to a pump panel, but you'll figure it
I
out.
mean, it's warmer. Whatever.
Tank the pump is still tank the pump. It's, it's all the same thing.
If it's hot,
Yeah, get out.
yeah.
When the door's open.
And I guess when we talk about that, and when you're saying the job, and something that you did bring up was, like the family that is the fire department and that brotherhood. I know we talked before this. We were talking about, like I said, we wanted to talk about like that social structure that is within the fire department. And Matt had brought up a question: is what is the best compliment that you can get from another firefighter? And before we started this, I told you that I knew what my answer was, and I'll kind of go into it now. The best compliment that I could give another firefighter would be that I can trust you to take care of my family. Like, I can trust that you're going to go in there and either get my family out of a fire, or you're going to go in there and do your paramedic magic and get my family. And I've had to. My family lives in town, and, guys on all the crews, I'm sure, have picked up one of my relatives, maybe some of them multiple times, but that's for me is the biggest show of respect I can give you, is if I sit there and say, you know what, I trust you to go and take care of my mom, take care of my sister, take care of my dad, my nieces. Like, these are people that live in town that it's going to happen, and it has happened. And, that's kind of like my ultra show of respect. Have there been people that have come to the fire department that I said no to?
I mean, not just in our own.
I
Interacted with people that you went to EMT school and
yeah,
paramedic
I
school
would
with.
say,
You're just
yeah,
like,
there's been people who've come in, and I'd be like, no, don't try. And guys kind of see that, and they were like, no, you don't. We'll take care of this. You're all set. And that's not something you see frequently, but again, that's something that you earn. So it's
you just
not,
feel comfortable with that.
yeah, it's not
person.
something that's just going to happen. A guy's going to walk through the door as a new guy, and you're going to turn to them and be like, hey, all right,
Yeah.
my mom's having a heart attack.
This guy's day 1, that guy's day 18. Year 18.
Go
Which
take
one?
care of my mom.
Yeah.
And it's like you and it's you and the new guy, and I'm like, no, how about you let Matt take care of my mom, and you can,
Yeah.
watch or whatever. That's kind of.
And I feel
that's
like
my
that
answer there
compliment
for
goes
that.
both ways too. Like, you're saying, Matt, I trust you with my family. But that compliment goes from me being like, no shit. This guy trusts me with his family. Like, this guy trusts me with that. Like, obviously that means a lot. And so, like I said, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
You identifying that this person's good at job, that person identifying that he's being appreciated for it. And that goes both ways.
And I can honestly say right now in the department that that's everybody. I would be okay with anybody showing up to any of my family's house.
Sure.
Because we do, we have that standard of care for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just, oh, hey, do you get a little bit of a special treatment if I know, hey, it's Zach's dad. I mean, granted, he'd be.
Good luck with that.
He may not let us treat him. He'd have to treat himself.
I'm not going to triage, right? I know Zach's dad.
So yeah.
No.
So some people get, you do maybe treat that person a little bit differently because you know them, you know their family. But everybody gets that excellent standard of care regardless. I think there's nothing but, for people who are in this area, there's been nothing but good things said about the Ludlow Fire Department and the type of care that we provide. And I think that's, most of the people in this town recognize that. And we work our butts off, and that's and it shows most of the time. And so what? Now you can answer your own question.
Honestly, that was gonna be my answer.
Then I stole your answer.
You
so
stole
I'm good
my
with that.
answer.
Sorry, I took all your
Stole my
thunder.
answer. I know.
But I know you kind of.
Look at you guys complimenting each other. It's nice.
It is nice.
it's-
It's nice.
it's-
Yes.
It's all part. We're on the same crew. It's
Looking
nice.
down on you.
It's okay. It's okay. It's nice to look up here.
And so it's you touched on it too. I mean, it goes both ways, like you said. That is a compliment on both ends. All right, this guy, I get it. This guy, trusts me. I trust him, and that's got to be on every aspect of the fire, right? Every aspect of the fire ground, you need to be like, me and Matt are just on the same crew, Zach. I don't want to leave you out, but Zach being on the safety officer outside. And me and
He automatically assumes. I was so waiting for that to come
Yeah.
out. Like, he just assumes I'm going to be the safety
Yeah.
officer now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, great.
well, I mean, you're the only officer
Not
here,
wrong.
and we need to get on the guy outside. So
How bold of you to
Yeah.
assume.
and yeah, I'll even bring up almost a confirmation story on that. Is when we went to that bad accident in the town next to us a couple years back, and they called for the engine and the ambulance. And as we're going up the hill with our stretcher, there happened to be another mutual aid ambulance that showed up at the same time. And the officer that was in charge of the scene, again, horrific, bad accident, there was some work that needed to be done. The officer, I remember looking out, seeing us walking up the hill. I was close enough to where I could see his eyes look over, saw who else was coming up the hill, and basically waved them off and was like, you, let's go. That right there set the tone for the entire call. Like, we were literally called and now we're being put to the front of this entire call because they recognize who we are, and they're going to say, we know these guys, we trust these guys. not too sure on the other ones. That was a good confidence booster there.
Yeah, for sure. Zach, would you like to
Yeah, no, I mean, I
answer
honestly,
the question?
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys hit it right on there, but it's I was just kicking that back. Excuse me.
No.
Just kicking that back and forth for a minute there. Like one of the best compliments you can get, like underhanded compliment, right? But that means the most. You know, you have a shitty call, EMS call, accident, fire, whatever it is. Like, how many times? What's it really mean, right? Like the news is going to come out, and they're gonna put on their whole persona. They're going to interview the chief or whoever's in charge. They're going to do this whole big thing. But like you walk out, like somebody else is standing there waiting to go in, or vice versa. Somebody else grabbed their second bottle. They just kind of give you like a nudge, like, "Hey, nice job in there." Mm-hmm. Like, what's the best compliment from man to man, from brother or sister in his job? Best compliment you can get is "good job." Mm-hmm. Doesn't need to be any more than that. I mean, shit.
From people that you look up to.
Yeah, you can spell the whole thing, or people that don't.
Yeah.
Right? You get maybe a younger person on a job, and they're kind of like, "Hey, man, that was really something what you did." Mm-hmm. The way you handled that family in that call, the way that you dealt with that patient, whatever you did, doesn't matter. It's hey, you did a good job. And sometimes it's all you need, right? You can put all the awards, you can put all the pins, and it's all good. It means a lot, and it should be done. And I'm not downplaying any of that, right? Like sometimes, hey, fucking nice job, right? And I'm sorry, like I can say that, right? Like it's all good.
That stems a lot of too.
Like I can say fuck.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, all right, don't celebrate it there.
Come on,
Frank.
easy, easy.
I could say.
This is a PG-13 movie.
Oh man, what was I gonna
that
say?
one.
That. Yeah, just mostly, like you were saying, hearing it from people that either you look up to or hearing it from younger guys being like, "Oh, I guess I still got it. All right, great."
Yeah. Nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of will lead us into the next topic here. Let's talk a lot about like the types.
What's he got a list?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all in my head.
Yeah.
The types of conversations
ChatGPT.
that you can that you could find like yourself in, and the importance of the kitchen table. Right? So we touched on it a little bit in I want to say it was the first day. I mean, you were at the first day of the class last month, but we had a leadership class. The guy talked about the table got brought up because it was as one of the things that people kind of, when you get into the fire department and what is something that's like a big, something that's like helps with morale, helps with, whatever, solve the world's problems, right? At the kitchen table. That's something that you don't get like elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Like obviously a lot of jobs don't really have that, central meeting place that you can get there every day and, just kind of talk about it, talk about whatever, talk about your, home life, if that's what you want to talk about, whatever, buying a van and trying to redo it, talk about your relationships, talk about all sorts of stuff. Like that's kind of like the way the table is. And, it does cross over all of the crews, at least at our department, where everybody else kind of shares that same sentiment that this is, if you're not at the table, people notice, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're in the other room and like everyone's having a conversation, they're like, oh, hey, where's Andy? Where's Matt? Where's these guys? Like,
And we can all know that you're working, but if you're not present at that given moment, everybody's screaming.
Yeah.
Where's Andy?
Yeah. Why aren't you here to talk about this with us?
I'm in the bathroom again, like I told you I would be.
And sometimes that's part of it.
Yep.
But I think that goes hand in hand with, it being like a family and like that table being that symbol. You know what I'm saying?
He brings up a good point.
Yeah, he does. He does.
I just want to hit on this before
it needs to be explored. Yeah.
Go ahead. Talk out loud, my friend.
I don't want to downplay. You see the videos, guys, FDNY guys, whoever, like they talk about the problems, and like it all gets worked out in the kitchen. And again, I don't want to steal this from them because I definitely heard this somewhere else, but it really does all get worked out in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you may need to go have a little basics discussion or something right outside, but like it all gets worked out in the kitchen, right? Because there's no escaping it. You can storm right out, but you can't leave.
Yeah.
You can't take your problems with you out of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Because those assholes will just chase you right out of there with them.
They will.
So
It's been done
yeah,
several times, actually.
right. And like when you come back in, it's still going to be there. They're going to be like, "Hey, you left.
Yeah.
Back onto your nonsense, right?"
Yeah, so where you were, yeah, don't care. So what were you saying before?
Yeah. It really stinks about what happened at home. Let's explode it again.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that.
Like, you can't escape the kitchen. Everything gets worked out in the kitchen. So, there's a comment made to me not that long ago about how we hold some of our, like our social club and our unit meetings. Mm-hmm. And like, we don't have the e-board sitting up front, because we have the other room, which we can use. So we get the podium and all that. We can set up some chairs and kind of kicked it around a couple times. And it's like, yeah, that'd be kind of official. Get the e-board up there, nice recording secretary. Make it kind of formal. Yeah, that kind of ain't our thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know or whatever, like we run all of our meetings in the kitchen the same way that we run our coffee, our lunch, our dinner, training, anything. A bad call at 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. We're gonna work it out in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And I kind of took that a little bit, and I was like, well, maybe we should do it differently. It's like, that's kind of not our thing.
Yeah.
No.
We do it all in the kitchen. There's no assigned seat. Whoever's got something to say. You could be sitting at the head of the table, you could be standing, leaning on the counter. You could be running a meeting there. It don't matter, right? Everyone's got an equal seat in the kitchen, and that's how it is. There's no rank. There's no nonsense.
It doesn't need to be official because everybody knows their role.
Because
that's sitting in that room.
Right.
Everybody knows what they're there for. Everybody knows what they're going to be speaking about and what the goal is. And there's no need to have people that are standing because everybody knows it's one team, one unit, and everybody's going forward with it.
Yeah, and everybody has that, gives it that mentality where, my voice is just as good as your voice. Yeah. Like the president's not just standing up there and, he's running the meeting, but he's not just standing up there and like saying, these are all the things I'm going to say. Nope, no one can talk. This is it. We're done. And then that's it. Everybody has an equal say and it's important to have that common ground. And, like Zach said, that's the table. It's what some people would say, the great equalizer.
How many, from the starting points of the fire department till, I'll give you present day right now, how many firefighters or paramedics or EMTs or any of that combination, how many of their lives were spared because there was talk at the table? How many folks didn't go home thinking, I can't do this anymore, I'm just done? And the only thing that saved those people's lives is the 5 minutes at the table that they just hung out and talked and got their stuff out. And they were like, I was going to really do that? Well, that's stupid. I feel a lot better now. Things are good. All right, we're going home.
Yeah,
when you look at it that way, it's crazy. Yeah, like that is the importance here. That is the importance of that table.
That does stress the importance.
That is like the unbelievable. Like I think about that a lot. Like how many people didn't have that opportunity? They just needed 5 minutes at the table, and that day it didn't happen, and they just went home, and they had a dark day.
It speaks volumes. What you said speaks volumes to the other people in there too. Like you had mentioned it before. Like, hey Andy, where the hell are you? I'm in the bathroom.
Yeah. Classic Andy.
Hurry the hell up, right?
Guy drinks 12 gallons of water a day. Classic.
There's two offices.
But yeah, no, I mean you do just that. You check up on the guy or whatever. Like, hey, where is he?
Yeah.
How is he feeling about what we just went through? Well, he's not in here.
Yep.
Well, shit, go get him.
Yep.
Right? Well, that's his problem.
Yep. When you go to work, everybody, hey, big group text message the night prior. Hey, we're thinking about pizza tomorrow night. Everybody in. Up, everybody's in. All of a sudden, the next morning, you're looking around and be like, the hell, man? Like, Andy said he was in for dinner and he's not even here today. And what everybody do? Whips out their cell phones, be like, oh, you idiot, what happened last night? Oh, you didn't cook the chicken again, right, did you? I told you had to cook it at 375 for...
Yeah, but if you're cooking at 450 for half the time,
You could
see,
do
I
that.
knew where we were going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's, and that, like Matt says, that does stress the importance of, those conversations. And we talked about that on the first time you came on the podcast. We talked about the importance of having a conversation, whether that's at the table or with your partner in the ambulance after a bad call, things to that extent. Like that is and I think everybody at the station realizes how important that is sometimes.
If you don't understand the importance of that by, I'll even say year 3, you're not going to understand how important that is.
And you're going to look at a guy, like you said, you're going to look at a guy and he's just going to be, he might not be absent from the table, but he's absent from the table. He's going to be like, not mentally there.
Yeah.
And I think that's when people will start to like notice, hey, everything's all right. You're all right. Things good at home.
Yep.
And like that is a constant at the department, and that is like a credit to all the guys and girls that are on our department, that they have the the know-how to kind of be like, all right,
Not the know-how.
Yeah. We're not affiliated with Napa.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to. Like, do I join that?
Napa, no.
Sorry, I have undiagnosed autism.
So ultimately, like that is like I said, that's an credit to our credit to our department. That a lot of guys are like, something's going on. Hey, let me whatever, pull them aside, do something to that extent. And I think that comes up, from the guys, the captains and guys from the top 2. They're like, hey, you seem a little off. Is everything all right? Do what we call on our crew a fireside chat. And we end up, you end up in the office and whatever.
Coin that
It's not,
phrase.
not always.
You guys have coined that phrase.
Yeah.
It's not always
Have a little fireside chat.
Yeah.
It's not always a good chat, but sometimes, it's just to make sure that you're doing all right and everything's good. And I think
Thought the pizza in the nurse's station was up for grabs.
Right?
I'm sorry.
Fireside chat. My personal favorite. Hey, you got a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm here for another 16 hours.
Yeah, no, my anxiety just went to 1,000. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got several.
No, not a big
minutes.
deal. Not a big deal.
Yeah,
Just,
it's not a big deal. Just you're fired.
Right. Will this take just 1 minute? I think that's my new response.
That is a good one.
Hey, you got a minute? Will it take just 1
yes,
minute?
yes. In retrospect,
But yeah, we have fun. So I mean, that's also a huge part of the job is just enjoying it, because they say if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
yeah.
And I like to say that's kind of the mentality, especially this year with the old New Year, New Me
New Year, New
motto
Me.
that I'm going with.
Which you're doing great at. You're killing
Andy's
it, man.
got a new motto?
Andy's doing
Yeah,
a great
New
job
Year,
right
New
now.
Year, Me.
All right.
New Year, New Me.
I don't see him much now, Angie.
Well, it's just trying to be more positive.
Yep, big things happening. Big things
trying
happening.
trying to be more positive
Doing a great job.
of things that happen at like the station, trainings, and being more proactive.
Upbeat.
Yeah.
That's good.
And trying not to be,
He's not singing with me on the ambulance yet, though.
not the
Still,
Debbie.
we're not doing
Downer.
that great. We're doing good. We're not doing that great. Nah, I know.
19th
I know it's the
February.
19th
Come on now.
February.
It's
What do you want from him?
Still the
think you
beginning
said-
of the new year.
Did you say the 29th of February you're going to start?
Yeah.
March 32nd.
Make an anniversary of it on the 29th. Continuing on the topic of the inner workings of the fire department and the importance of those conversations. Like Matt had said, mental health is something that we have advocated to talk about on this podcast, on many different episodes. We always stress the importance of that conversation and making sure that you have that conversation. Lots of different services out there, obviously. We're not going to get into that, but, again, with the table being that, like, center of it all. And like you said, Matt, that 5 minutes, getting that, you know, you get the bad call, you come back from that bad call while things are really messed up. You know, having those people to be like your sounding boards, right? It kind of helps lessen the blow a little bit. And again, that just stresses the importance of all the things that we've talked about today: the table, the brotherhood, the family, the importance and the importance of morale and the importance of that tight knit group, whether that's within your own crew or the department as a whole. We personally are lucky enough that our department's not that big. With one station, we do get to see the majority of each other fairly frequently, and I think that kind of helps with our. You know, when this guy works on our crew, it's like, oh, it's like nothing's changed. It's just, all right, come on in.
Swapping shifts.
Yeah,
overtime.
you can fill the pieces in, and there's
plug 'em in.
no,
Yep.
you know, there's no need to change anything that you do because, you know, I know that, you know, Zach can run engine 3, and I know that Matt can do the tower, and I know that this guy can do the engine 1. There's like I said, there's that effectiveness of us all being able to do that job interchangeably. So I mean, there's that I think that some places don't see that, or they also struggle with it if like you have more than one station, or if you have a larger department where there's, you know, a bunch of stations, 10, 12, you know, whatever, a Boston or a New York and stuff. You don't necessarily see the guy that's on, you know, Engine Company 1.
It might
Engine
be
Company
years
2.
until you meet the majority of people.
You know, and we kind of get lucky with the size of our department to kind of be able to know each other, you know, like everyone knows our families, big weddings happen, it's a big deal. You know, like this is kind of where that second family thing comes in, and I think that, you know, because of that, a lot of guys do, you know, feel like that's something that they can, you know, rely on if they do have a bad call or, you know, a bad day, whether it's home, work, whatever. You know, you kind of get that, you know, and like I said, we've talked about the importance of that, but I don't know if you guys want to elaborate any more on the mental health aspect of it. But yeah, I'll let you guys kind of I kind of going on a rant here, so let somebody take over.
You know, we're sitting here saying how great it is that we have that opportunity, right? But whether it's after a bad either job-related issue, family-related issue, whatever it might be, chances are if you're looking out into that crowd of people between 6, 8, possibly 9, 10 people have been either in that same predicament, in a very similar predicament, and it won't just be geez, that stinks. It will be, here's what you do. And I know what you do because I've been there before, and I made the mistakes of doing this. Do not make that mistake. This is what I did to counteract that. There's usually some people, like I said, if it hasn't been in that exact predicament, very, very close, that might be able to have the information to guide you in a certain way. But like I was saying, we have that opportunity to do that. Well, the cops don't, man. They don't have that. They have terrible call. Sounds great. Get back in your cruiser and try to make it back to the station to do a report. Man, you're probably going to get another call and you're going to have to do that. But they don't have that same camaraderie, I guess. There is camaraderie, but it stops at the solo level as well. Because,
Yeah.
you know, there's not a lot of, you know, unless you're going to go get breakfast at the end of your overnight shift, or you're going to grab lunch or something with the guys on your group, but it's just it's different. It's the same, but it's different. Once again, same, different. But we definitely luck out in that regard that we almost have that built-in
Yeah,
psychology
like we
appointment every week.
Yeah, yeah, you know, we're with each other 24/7. You know, a lot of guys are there, like for your shift, you're there for 24 hours, and guys, and you don't have a choice. Like Zach said, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, you're there. You know, you go on a call, you come back, you're still there. So you know, even if you're trying to hide it, people are just they know you're hiding it.
That's a good point there, Andy. Actually, what you just said, Matt was kind of driving in that direction too. You know, you'd mentioned like some other stations being big enough, maybe small enough, whatever. Like we're just kind of that right size, if you will, where we probably should have at least one other station. We should, based on our call volume and everything else. We should be operating on a more than one station, but we don't, due to our constraints geographically, financially, whatever, right? We're not going to get into that, but we run on the same house. So there's no hiding that stuff. Yeah. And you get to know somebody for a while. And, Matt comes in or vice versa. If I came in, Matt saw me acting the way I was, we're in the same group. He's going to take about 5 minutes to know. And he's going to be like, hey, he's having a bad day when he came in. Or we go to a call. He's like, well, he's over there now. Like you talked about the kitchen. But especially like coming in, too. That's another thing. There's just no hiding it.
No.
There's no hiding it in a place like ours where you mentioned we work with everybody, right? Everybody sees everybody. I mean, even a chief, right? Like everybody literally sees everybody. And there's just no hiding it. But that's kind of the point, It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
Like you guys have mentioned earlier about, it's not always about the bad call that you had. What brings you to the kitchen table? Maybe you had a bad week, on your 5 or whatever, or your couple days off, whatever you had. You come in and you're just like, you got home shit going on, and
Things wearing on you.
yeah, and you just come in and you sit down, and like you look at a guy, and we all know the guys, right? Because maybe it was us, maybe it was guys we know in our groups or different groups. You see him in there, and a guy or he or she, whoever, they look a little down, they look defeated. So naturally, the first thing we do is smack them a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, what the hell's your problem?
Naturally,
Right?
yeah.
But you got to get that rise out of them.
Yeah.
Naturally,
Like you got to know they're still alive.
Yep.
And I'm sorry. Anybody who tells you like, well, I don't kick them while they're down. Well, of course you want to keep kicking them.
Yeah.
But you got to know they're alive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You want to know the fight's still in them.
And that's how sometimes you even test to see if they're alive.
Yeah.
Just keep after it until you even get any sort of response whatsoever, and be like, all right,
Yeah.
ice has been broken.
Yeah. I got
What's
you.
up?
What's up? Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to know that you're breathing over there. You're not just maintaining, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick you until I get a response, and then somebody turns around and slams a cup of coffee down on the table and goes, hey, what's your problem? All right. Now that I have your attention,
Yeah.
fireside chat.
Now that I have
Yeah,
you.
fireside chat.
No, but it's good and it's bad, especially at like a size like this, a department like our job. But I don't know.
We're working overtime. They have the opportunity for overtime and callback and swaps and all the other things that you can do. Building off of what you said, you can literally, there is no special list that we have for overtime. There's no like, geez, Andy was supposed to be Engine 3 tomorrow. I got to go down a special list for the only people that only know Engine 3 are only allowed to do anything with Engine 3. It is just the department is all trained on Engine 3, the same. Engine 1, the same. The tower, the same. The ambulances, the same. Everybody can fill in any void for any time, for any reason, doing anything, because everybody's on the same page of everything.
Let me ask you a question, Matt. On that, good do you think that maybe that helps a little bit of morale sometimes when the guys they come in and it's like, hey, you're on overtime or you're this, you're that. Like you're all gonna get it the same way.
Oh yeah,
right?
Big time.
What do you think? You think that helps, or?
I think it helps. I mean, it helps from probably more of a managing aspect than really anything else. That way you're just like, it doesn't matter who accepted the overtime. I know that person is going to be able to do anything that is going to be asked of him or wherever he's going to fall in line. On the other side of it, if I'm looking at overtime people coming in, I'm just like, oh, thank God they're getting paid more. They want to be on the ambulance, right? They want the ambulance because they're making more money, right? I can have the day off. Oh, okay.
I think people now, when you're on overtime, you're kind of expected.
You're just expected that you're.
And it's not even that big. Like now,
It's part of our job.
it was a bigger deal before when we weren't rotating the ambulances, but now that we rotate the ambulances, all right, whatever, you do the first call.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to be right with everybody else doing the rest of the work.
One cheek on, baby.
Yeah. And the best seat in the house.
Best seat in the house.
Cheek on. I like that.
That's copywritten. Sorry.
I'm gonna throw that one up in the hallway with quotes.
But yeah, I mean, that's, Zach's got a good point that it is, it's good that guys know their job. Obviously that shows the importance of needing to know your job at our station, because you don't know. You're going to come in, and next thing you know, you're going to be on the tower. And then you could come in for overtime, and you're on, you're always on the ambulance, so there's no, you have to know how to do the ambulance.
Let's just say callback, for example. You have literally no idea.
Yeah, you're just going in.
Or for, like, all of a sudden they put out for an all call, like, hey, everybody, we got a huge incident in town. Everybody come on to the station. We'll figure it out from there. Like, you're driving into the station. You have no idea.
Yeah.
You could be told when you get there, all right, you need to be a paramedic right now. I need you to take the engine and do this as a driver, operator, or I need you to do this, and you're going to be in the back seat, and you're going to be going inside.
Yeah.
Like, just driving it, you have no clue. Whatever. And that doesn't even have to be for callback. Literally for work every single day. Every single day you are driving to work, you have no idea what you're going to go, what you're going to do, what houses you're going to go see, who you're going to see, what you're going to have to deal with. You just have no idea.
Yeah, right. Like a job like ours, not the backdraft line. Sorry, like, there literally just is nowhere to hide.
No.
Right, like there isn't. You got to come to work and
Ready to rock.
You don't know what your day's gonna be, right? There's no lazy day. You might be, on a reserve ambulance. Might be doing a housekeeping stuff. 2 ambulances go out waiting for callback guys to come in. You got a kid through the ice. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Now you're in a suit.
Yep.
You just went from 0 to hero or whatever it is. Like, there's just nowhere to hide, and we don't have that environment. There's a lot of places that do. Not that they're doing nothing wrong, but...
Or you come into work, you're like, oh man, I'm assigned to the forestry truck today. I'm not going to do anything. Oh, it's snowing? Well, I guess I'm going with every single ambulance call to follow the ambulance to make sure they don't get stuck.
Yeah. Shoveling out driveways.
Came into work thinking I was going to do a brush fire. Leaving work tired because I was up all night chasing the ambulance.
Shoveling snow.
Shoveling snow.
But like to Andy's point, rotating and everything else, it spreads it out that much more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? And then you get to the kitchen table.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again.
In the morning, and you're like, oh, shit.
Like that.
We all got it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Where are you, Ben? Didn't you hear you come into the dorms once last night?
Yeah.
I know that. I was up on the ambulance all night.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes now. I mean, there's been some subtle discussions about, a third ambulance rotation, and I don't know if that's going to be something that we attest until we have more guys, but...
I don't know how that could... It'd have to be very... I don't know.
I mean,
Sure.
you sit there and you think about it, and like you said, you think about, like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea when I just got, beat up all night on one of the lead ambulances. But then when you're on the third ambulance, you're like, I don't want to get beat up. I want to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want.
No,
You're on the third ambulance and a lead engine, and you're at a water flow at the mills all night, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're trying to fix a sprinkler head, and you go, man, I wish I was in the ambulance.
I wish I was in the ambulance right now.
Right? Like,
Guys are already going home.
It's coming, right?
Yep.
That's the point.
Oh, yeah.
In a place like ours, it's coming.
Yep.
It's coming to the boss. It's coming, to the lieutenant if it's coming to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's, obviously the 3 of us have been there long enough to have seen our department go from, like 2,000 calls all the way to 5,000 calls. And, we've seen that growth, and we've seen all these people come in. We're all on the top, as far as seniority goes now, we're like in that top 10 category now, Mm-hmm. I looked up at the board, after someone's promotion, congratulations. I saw myself go from that F8 position to F7, and I was like, wow, I'm literally working my way up that board, and pretty soon, Matt will be F1, and I'll be F3.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, and it's a cool feeling, but at the same time, there is a sense of like I'm going to be F3, and when that happens, I'll probably only have I'll still have less than 20 years on.
It's humbling.
It is.
It's
so
very humbling because
being
now...
one of the more senior guys in the department with only, right now 11 years. Like you're kind of like, you look at it and you're like, we have a very young department.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier in the importance of like the morale and like that pride in your department, because now like guys that we were when we came on that were the salty guys that were like everybody was looking to be like, hey, we need to get the job done. Oh, like get this guy in, right? That's us now.
That's us now.
Like we're those guys. And it's like, again, like you said, it's very humbling.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we all know our job. And it's not like everyone's going to go up there and be like, oh my God, I need to be the guy to know how to run the pump. You should already know how to do that. But there is some sense of, I think as you go up that list, bringing it back to the sense of pride, I think as you go up that list and you start seeing your number, in the single digits, you're like, this is my, this is my department, like this is our department as a whole, but like, when I look at that number, I look at F7, I'm like, that's me, like I'm here.
Well, it makes you take, being like a paramedic preceptor a lot more seriously too. Like you're looking at it going, whether you feel that this generations need to be branded by being lazy, or they just don't listen, or they want to know why every single thing they do. Okay, can you go sweep the floor? Well, why? Regardless of what you say, like you almost feel responsible for carrying on not only the tradition but the values and the passion that you feel for the job. You want to make sure that that's instilled in this new generation coming in, because if history has taught any individual anything, it's just the fear of what you know and you love ceasing to exist, and nobody wants that. That makes it a lot of unneeded anxiety and being scared about, like, well, if this just ceases, if everything I know ceases, if it's this job that I love so much just ceases, what did I just do for the last 20 years of my life? Like, why didn't I? And then that's why I just feel like I take a little bit more personally of, I will take the student for today, because not that I don't think you are very passionate about it, and I'm sure you could do a great job. Not that I'm thinking that he could do any less. But I just know that I know that my goal is to make sure that they instill a certain level of passion for that job. And I know for a fact that I'm going to do that. So it's just a lot easier for me to just do it. Let me just do it. I'll just do it, because I know that we can do that.
Yeah, and again, with that sense of pride, again, like you said, you're going to go into it. Now these guys are looking up to you to like instill that. I know we joke a lot about things, history, right? Like, oh, hey, we didn't throw that out. Well, that's history. That's why it's still there, kind of like. But there is something to say about like looking back and like seeing how that our department got to where it is now. Like there's an importance in that. And like somebody's dad, not to throw you under the bus, Zach, but Bud talks about the type of legacy that you leave behind. Like what is it when people, for again, not to get, dark with it, but like when people are at your funeral, what are they going to say about you? Mm-hmm. When the guy gets up there and says,
are they going to show up?
Yeah, that too. Like, are you the guy that was, were you a pillar?
Just dump me in the ocean.
Were you a pillar?
Go with the plan.
Yeah, go with the plan.
Were you a pillar?
Irene.
Were you a pillar of this department? Did people look back kindly on the things that you did, or were you just non-existent? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of something that, I think eventually everybody, figures out. Mm-hmm. Even if you did, come from out of town, or when you got on, you were like, well, that wasn't my first choice, or whatever. You still, I think by the end of your career, are going to be like, I still want these guys to think that I did a good job.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives you that sense of pride.
And with that thinking, it shouldn't matter where you work. You could work
Yeah,
for
and it wouldn't
Anchorage,
matter.
Alaska
Exactly.
Fire Department. You could work for Chicago, Detroit, Flint, Michigan, any place. Wherever you go, it shouldn't matter. It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same passionate cast of characters. You're going to have the crazy guy. You're going to have the guy who doesn't sleep. You're going to have the conspiracy theory guy. You're going to have it. It's everywhere.
Yeah, like
it's
we said
everywhere.
earlier, it's the job.
Yep.
It's part of
It's
it.
just the
you know,
job.
but
Just the job.
It's yeah. I mean, it's important. It's important, like you had just kind of referenced, Sandy. Like you want to who are you gonna be, and how are people going to remember you, and that's not always like a permanent marker, right? Like that can change, and that's important to know. But in a job like ours, department size like ours, and the amount of work that we're doing, that's going to be dynamic all the time. So just because you had a bad day or a bad week or a bad month or shit, I don't know, maybe you had a bad year, doesn't mean that you can't spin that around, right? There's going to be those highs and those lows. But like both of you guys referenced, it's a young department, and we're going to be here for a while, God willing, right? So you're going to have those days, but it's important to just remember the overall thing, right? Just know that everybody's, or at least you think most people are kind of well-intentioned and on your team. Like Matt had said about, you turn around one day and you're, I think you brought it up, then it like, yeah, now you're F whatever, now you're up there, and you still got half your career to go.
Yeah.
Well, that's when that transition kind of kicks in, even a little bit more. How do I take that legacy, everything that I was taught, everything that I worked for, everything that was like, it meant something to me, maybe, and I'm not speaking against what you said.
No.
What I'm saying is like, it meant something to me, but it wasn't as important back then, because I got to lay back, and I was like one of those guys. And all those guys were like, oh, the bosses are worried about this, or whoever's doing that, the other guys are doing that. I was out, we're doing whatever we do.
Right. Oh, yeah.
All those things.
Yeah.
But, like,
Yeah. You know.
right. But then, like, it happens one day. And it's like, crap. I got to pick this ball up and run with it now.
Yep.
And I think we're, the three of us, and probably some folks around us in our job, are in a pretty similar predicament now. We're like, you got half your career to go. Literally half of your career to go, and you're staring down the barrel of the last half of your career. You have half to go, but it's now the last half. It's like, I gotta pick the baton up and run with this now. What do I do? What's my legacy gonna be? Where do I go? How do I want to be remembered? All those things that you guys just pointed out. And you still got a whole half to go. This is stuff that people would probably typically think about maybe in the last 10 years or so, maybe. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, got a whole half.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Especially we're getting old, but we're still somewhat younger. Doesn't feel like it getting out of bed in the morning, but we're still younger.
Yeah, no.
And like you said, you're in a position of supervisory now. I'm staring at badge 4 within the next couple of months. Like, so 4th in line of seniority, you're in a supervisor role, and we're all within a couple of years of getting hired with each other.
Yeah. And age, right? It's all.
And we're not even officially truly halfway
Yeah.
through. Like, we're not at that number of like, boop, yep, it is halfway. So we have a long way to go. We're still very young, and we are all in positions that we were 15 years ago when we all started being like, Jesus Christ, that old guy. We're those guys now.
Yeah. Now I'm that guy.
Yeah.
You're that guy. But
Well, they say that to us now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old guy over there.
right, yeah. I don't know. A couple of guys, I'm like, you guys wearing a white shirt now? What the hell is this? See him at the bar when I got hired.
Had a lucky Saturday, huh?
Yeah, imagine that.
So that all
I
works.
don't know why we think that they're over there, but yeah, we keep doing that.
They're not even over there.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, it's one of those things, but it's something you can't forget, like where we started from. And I don't know if it used to drive people nuts, right? But like, you get on the radio, we go to a decent house fire, go to something like, hey Matt, what do you got? I don't know, Zach. Hey, what do you got?
Yeah, just give me a second, will you? Jesus Christ, just got inside.
But it's just one of those things. It's those little moments.
Yeah.
Those little moments when you get to a scene, whatever it is, and you're worried about all those things, who do I have to be now? Who do I, like, what's my role as my new position? Or what's my role as the senior guy? Or what's my role as the preceptor? You worry about all those things, and you try to be this person, right? You try to be this extra person, but you forget that what got you there was the guy that you were, the girl that you were. So like that lackadaisical thing sometimes, that whole, and we're kind of good at it. But, we joke around like, hey man, what do you got? I don't know. It's like, give me a minute, right?
Yeah.
Like it is what, but you got to take that and you got to step back and remember who you were and what got you there. And that's not a me thing. It's something I'd heard, but you can't forget where you came from as you move up, and that doesn't matter if you're a captain, a lieutenant, chief, deputy chief, senior guy, preceptor, whatever it is. You got to remember what got you to where you were, and that cool, calm, collected, fun attitude. Let's not forget about the fun we had on the way. And that's kind of just it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Well, the I mean, we're all getting into the spot too now. Like, everybody's within 3 or 5 years of getting hired with each other. Now, one guy's getting promoted, another person's getting promoted. So everybody's kind of going different ways. So now you have that conversation of, oh, geez, well, you grew up with this guy. You did some real shenanigans with this guy, and now this guy's in a position of supervisory, and now, like, how is that going to affect our relationship? And I got to be honest with you, I think my dad was very, very good about doing this. And I know he was very good about doing this is because everybody that he worked with told me how great he was at doing this. He was promoted to sergeant, was now in charge of guys that he was pulling crazy stuff with on the road. As just a junior guy, I'm not a boss, or whatever, we're going to do this. And he was very good about separating sergeant as opposed to just Rick.
Yeah.
So it would be, you got a minute? Like, what were you doing? What were you saying? Why would you can't do this. You can't do this. Are you an idiot? Like, what the hell's wrong with you? I wasn't thinking, sorry. All right, good. I'm glad we're not going to do that again. No, we're not. Cool. Got any plans for breakfast? We going out or like we normally do? Where he was very good about keeping those separate, and he never let one sneak into the other. Like and it also comes with his guys have to know that too. Like me and Zach are friends. Zach's in a position of supervisory now, but it is also up to me to say we can joke around because it's Matt and Zach, or hey Cap, this is what we get. This is what we're gonna do, or this is what I'd like to do. So it's up to not only the boss to be able to separate those, but that individual needs to be able to separate those two.
Sure, that's a good point, actually.
And sometimes it can make it very tough. It can make it very blurring. But at the end of the day, and you see this a lot with some of the younger generations now of, oh, this guy's a great guy. We stayed up till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning drinking in his basement. He was an awesome guy. Well, the next day at work, that guy has to say, hey, you're late, dude. Like, you got to get written up for it. Oh, the guy's an idiot. Screw him. I dumped it. Those are the people that can't separate it. Yeah. Well, 6 minutes ago, you were just saying how great of a guy this guy was.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point, though.
It is your fault that you are not able to separate those two things of work friend and boss friend. And because of the fact that that person could not separate them, now all of a sudden the guy's an idiot and he's stupid and you've never liked him and man, his teeth are yellow and all this other stuff. Well, I
get it.
I didn't want to say it to you.
You destroy relationships on top of it. I get what you mean. That's a good point.
Both people just need to be very good.
It's on both sides.
Both sides need to be on the same page.
That's a really good point, actually.
Yeah. That was old Rick.
For the listeners out there. That's a good point.
Yeah, that was old Rick. My old Rick. Not the department old Rick. That was my Rick.
No, gotcha.
Yeah.
So as we get to the end, we start to wrap this up.
Next.
As we start to wrap this up here, any final, I guess, words of wisdom from either of you that you would want to talk about before we wrap this up?
There's quite a few.
No.
You have one.
I said words. So.
I guess I can just dabble in two of them. And again, I keep stressing the whole mental health aspect thing of it. Just make sure you take care of yourself, because you are going to do nobody in your family any good, your kids any good, the people on your crew any good, the people that you are being called to deal with. You're not going to do anybody in that line of succession any good if you're not being good yourself. And that has to do with mostly your mental state. And it having gone through like a crazy period of my life, in that it was not until years later where I looked back going, oh, that's what all that was, huh? It wasn't just me being crazy. Well, I guess in a way it was, but yeah, I would just say that I think several people, it's been brought up several times tonight. Just keep an eye on your folks.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on your folks.
Zach, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna echo that anymore. I think that was perfect for a good send home, and just remember where you came from, right?
Yeah.
It's a long road to get to where you're going, but it's a short look back.
Yeah.
At least it should be.
And the importance of those things, knowing where you came from and taking care of yourself, two very important things. And again, everybody can expect all sorts of great conversation like this one and on every episode of the Gabbin with Goody podcast.